I'm totally serious though. We gotta have something to start this.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to do for it though.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna sing a song
Or
hum a tune.
You don't need to sing a song. Just like some intro. Hello and welcome to the Lateral Move podcast. We are your hosts, Tony
and Harrison. In this podcast, we talk about life and life decisions. We talk about the good decisions and the bad decisions, but we mostly talk about the mediocre decisions. How would you define a lateral move?
Well, a lateral move is something that you do in life that does not really improve or worsen where you are. So you can say that you did it, and you might not be where you were, but there's no real true impact on any part of your life.
It's like you aren't where you started, but you might as well be.
You know, one of the biggest lateral moves is college. You know, everyone is forced to go to college. Not forced, but like they're pushed. They're very much pushed from the day that they're born to go to college. And obviously there's going to be exceptions to that. But for the most part, you know, you go through school, elementary, middle, high school. It's always, what are you going to do after you graduate? You're going to go to college. What college are you going to? The SATs are important. Your GPA is important. You know, knowing how to do X, Y, and Z. It's always important. And everything is trying to get you prepared for college.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's had a teacher that said, your professors aren't going to be this lax in college.
That's very true. But then I found out it's actually the opposite, pretty much. Most of my
you get to college.
Are much more lenient towards a lot of things than high school teachers would have been.
You get there, and your professor's just like, well, I don't really want to come to class today. There's too much traffic.
Yep.
Screw it. And they cancel class. So it's like, oh, you know, this is a democratic class, so if everyone wants to push the due date back, then we'll just push the due date back.
Nobody wants to be here, not going to be there,
Yeah. So, and then, you know, once you graduate college, you say you go to college, once you graduate, you know, most jobs out there, you know, they require, you know, heavy air quotes there, they require a college degree. They might not actually truly require it, but they say they do. And in most jobs, it's usually a big help when you're going through the interview process to have it, just so that you can say, hey, look, I went through this higher education. I know how to think critically.
I know how to read and write.
Yeah.
Here's a sheet of paper that says I can read.
Yeah. It's just like, I paid a lot of money, and they gave me this piece of paper, so now I'm qualified to work this job.
To try to pay off this piece of paper.
It's just, I mean...
It's a lateral move.
It's a lateral move. So... with more, you know, with jobs, when you graduate, if you have a college degree, you generally have more ability to switch jobs. You're not kind of just stuck into one profession. You know, so you can get a degree in psychology, in philosophy, in marine science, whatever it is, and, you know, a degree's a degree. It doesn't matter what it's actually in for the most part, unless you're going to, like, go do counseling, then you need a master's degree in your specific field, unless you're going to go do something, you know, where you need a PhD.
Yeah, be a doctor.
You know, it doesn't actually matter what your degree's in. It's just, I've been there. So you can kind of go between jobs. You can go do business if you weren't a business major. You can go do, you know, kind of whatever you want to do. You know, whatever is going to make you money that you want to or need to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't actually matter. It's just the degree that's important.
Yeah, I find most people that I know that are well off into the career world have nothing to do with their degree.
And then there's blue-collar jobs where maybe you didn't get a degree, but you went to trade school. You know, most trade, you know, degrees, most trades require some form of schooling. Now, it's a lot shorter of schooling. You know, it's a couple semesters, a couple years, and then you do your apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the apprenticeship is paid.
Yeah.
So you get out of your very inexpensive trade school with your degree that says, I can put two sticks together and make fire.
Yeah.
And then you get paid to go learn on the job. But then once you have that degree, or not degree, but you have that skill set built up, I mean, you can apply it to other things, but you can't switch your job as easily. You can't switch professions. You can't go from being a plumber to being an electrician, because it requires a different skill set that's not one-to-one applicable the same way that having a college degree is.
Yeah, I can think of two examples of people in my life that I've known like that. Like in high school when I did a trade school, machining school thing, and the instructor for that school, his name was Kevin. He told us like when he was our age, he didn't care about school, didn't like want to go to college, did none of that. So when he graduated high school, he went straight into trade school, got a decent job being a machinist, but he was pretty much stuck being a machinist for his whole life. Like he had no other options. And he was like 60-something years old, teaching how to be a machinist to high schoolers. And like he was happy, but he did talk about how it was like the only thing he could ever do was work on machines and then go home and work on his race car.
Yeah.
And then the other example would be my grandpa, like same situation. He was also a machinist, didn't do well in high school, didn't go to college, pretty much was stuck with being a machinist. Or, no other options. He was less happy about it than Kevin was.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a big deal, if you like what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that applies to any aspect of life, but as long as you like what you do, it's not a huge deal if you can only do the one thing. If you don't like it, that's, when it becomes a bigger problem. Even if you do go to college, sometimes you still get stuck into, something you don't want to do. My family is a little more blue collar for the most part, and it's just like my uncle went to college and then he still ended up doing construction his whole life, and I don't think he particularly enjoys it, but it pays the bills, and he does practically apply his degree, but it's not exactly what he wanted to do. Whereas my dad went and got a college degree for whatever, and then now he's just up in a white-collar, desk job. And I don't think he enjoys it either, but, it's different mindsets and what you want to do with your life. He's found something he's really good at, so he does that, even though he's not terribly happy with it. But with the degree, you have the ability to, kind of change. You can, switch jobs at your pleasure for the most part.
Yeah. That's definitely true. You can be like, I'm done with this place. Let's see what else we can go find.
Yeah.
There are definitely people who don't have the luxury to do that, but with a degree, it's easier.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, you live in a big city and rent is $5,000 on your one-room apartment, and you bring in $6,000 a month, but you're leasing your car, and you have to pay for utilities and food and you just end up not being able to make money. Like my high school English teacher, she was telling us one day, I don't remember how it came up, but she was saying how she graduated. I think she went to University of West Virginia, and she graduated with call it $30,000 in debt, just for round numbers' sake. And then that was like 10 years before she started teaching at my school. And by the time I was in her class, she was now $50,000 in debt, because she's so bad at money management that her debt just compounded because she wasn't even paying off the interest payments.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have your degree. Technically, you should be able to do something with it, but you're not doing anything with it. So what are you doing? But you do end up kind of with different levels of effort to, risk to reward, effort to payment, depending on what you do. But, that all kind of, it ends up working out for most people down the line, kind of regardless of which way they go.
Yeah, might just take a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that people don't think about either way is once you're off the clock, what ends up happening. Because say you work at a desk job, you're a middle manager or higher at your company, you end up being salaried, but because you're salaried, that means you don't get time off, or at least in depends on what you're doing. But I would say in more than half of companies, you kind of don't get time off. Because it's like, yeah, you do your work during work, and then you have more time outside of work. But if an emergency comes up, you're the one who's got to step in and put out the fire.
Yeah.
Or you got to, tell people what to do all the time, no matter what. Someone doesn't come in on your day off.
Then guess who gets called in? Yeah.
So you end up doing just more work on top of more work. But then in, trade jobs, it's like you get off the clock and you want to sit down, but then something in your own house breaks. And you're like, well, I know how to fix that. I don't want to fix it. I want to sit down and drink a beer and go to sleep. But then you have to fix it. Or it's like you go to a friend's house or a family member's house for an event, and they're like, oh, my sink is leaking. Can you fix my sink? I know it's your day off, but can you still work for
I can think of family friends.
free?
I can think of family friends who have trade jobs like welding or whatever, and you ask them for like a favor on their day off, and like they never say no, but like I can imagine it's like, oh, I just want to relax. Because like some of those guys, their trade jobs, like they're already working like 60 hours a week probably. Like
they barely get time off as it is, and
they're not sitting at a desk either while they're working.
I'm sure at some point they'll just feel like they're getting taken advantage of, and then just snap and kill everyone. And
yeah, you think so?
Yeah. But speaking of job switching, your great-grandfather, your grandfather even, would work their whole life at one job, right? They'd get a job when they're 16 or when they're 18 or whatever it is, and they'd work their whole life, maybe get up to middle management, and then they would retire and get that gold watch and then go live somewhere doing whatever they want to do because they made decent money for the time. Now they're just, the fun grandparent. And then you look at your parents and it's like, I'm sure some people still have that old school mentality, but I think a lot of people of our parents' generation is more of like a, I don't have to do this job. I can go work somewhere else with better conditions for a higher pay, better benefits, whatever it happens to be.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was true that more people nowadays were like less loyal to their careers.
Oh yeah, I know people at my job right now who they've kind of changed what they want to do 3 times. Yeah. And my job, we're very lenient with our employees, and kind of give people a lot of flexibility so people can, they can quit, but they can stay on as like an as needed position.
Yeah.
And then that way, if they fail at whatever they're going off to do, or even if they don't fail, they just don't like it and they want to come back, then they have a fallback to land on. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. That's very nice of us, but it also means that people kind of take advantage of it. And they're like, well, I like what I'm doing here, but I kind of want to do something else for a few weeks or a few months. And then they leave.
It forgives disloyalty.
Yeah, and then they come back and they're like, please, I need my job back.
They're like, all right.
And and assuming they left on good terms, and then they end up getting a nice cushy job that the rest of us haven't had yet.
That's unfortunate.
And that is what it is, but it kind of lends to a culture of, you need to get that bag, right? It's get the bread. It's make money.
Yeah.
And that's all our culture, our generation is focused on, is money, and not their marriage, not a family, not anything that actually would make them happy in life. It's just what they think would make them happy, and that ends up kind of torpedoing them as they go through their career. Yeah. Just being focused on themselves.
You think that people being less loyal to their careers is a characteristic of a more materialistic society that's more interested in pursuing like monumental gain or monetary gain in any way necessary, so that they'll just like hop from one place to the next and not worry about things that should actually matter.
Yeah. Yeah, back in the day, people would go to church and they would go back to their family and they would go to work and they would make enough money from a one worker household. The father works as a mailman and brings in enough money for 2 cars, a fully paid off house, and they can send their kid to college with relative ease.
Yeah.
And they still had money left over to do what they want to do and to be generous in the community. And then kind of as time has gone on, now you get to our generation where it's, I don't even have enough money to pay my rent and my car lease and for food and my clothes and my Starbucks every day and.
Yeah, at the very least going check to check, it seems like more and more.
Yeah. And it's just like, if you stopped, you stayed at, I'm not saying you have to stay at a job just because you got the job, but like, you find a job you enjoy and you stay there, you make good connections, and so long as it's enough to provide for you, you can, do what actually would truly make you happy, and you can provide the community, and if you provide for the community will, in theory, provide back if you ever need it. And it's just like, why do people not do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, are we in like a secret recession too, or something like that? Like, is that another reason why people are going check to check?
Not really a secret.
Not really secret.
Not really secret. The government doesn't want to acknowledge it, but it's not really a secret. And inflation's through the roof, but no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Everything costs more too, so like.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like how the government measures inflation.
No.
So basically, what they do is they'll take it's a list. So they have a list of items. So like you go to the grocery store and it's call it a meal for a family, right? They measure, it's like potatoes and steak and milk and like a vegetable and something else.
Yeah.
So they have like a small list of things that has been relatively standardized. I say relatively because I'll get to that in a second. And they can just go, year to year, month to month, whatever it is, compare the price of each individual item on that list and say, okay, it's gone up by 7%. That means we're at 7% inflation for this year, type of deal. And what they do to minimize the inflation numbers is they'll switch out the items. So they'll go, instead of doing a steak, they'll do ground beef.
Interesting.
Instead of doing, whole milk, they'll do skim milk. Instead of doing, a carton of eggs, they'll do like a half carton of eggs or something like that. Whatever it happens to be. But they'll like swap out the items for something that's technically comparable, but it doesn't. It
seems like they
helps
shouldn't be
them to
getting
minimize
away with that.
What?
Seems like they should not be getting away with that.
They shouldn't, but I don't think most people know about it, and that's the problem.
What is that called? What do you call that?
I don't know, the measure for inflation.
Like the way that, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a standardized list of things that they should have, but it's not actually standardized because they keep changing things so that they can artificially deflate
just make it
inflation.
Look a little less bad.
Yeah.
That's weird.
If you compare something, from 3 years ago, your loaf of bread and it costs you $2, and then now it's, $8.
That loaf of bread that I got at the market yesterday, that was $3.50. It's a nice loaf of bread. So.
Well, I mean that's like local homemade bread. That's different. It's not your mass-produced Sara Lee type
Wonder bread.
Yeah, your Wonder bread. It's crazy because people will live their whole lives and be like, "Oh yeah, 7% inflation. That sounds right." Or no one says that.
I thought it was
7% inflation. That's way too much. But no, that's what it used to be.
That's what it used to be.
At some point, yeah. But it's crazy. And then it's like, when Biden got elected, it went from $2 a gallon for gas or less, depending on where you live, to up to $4, and then back down to like $3.50. And it's like, oh, look at that, we're helping the economy. But it's like you made it 3 times as expensive to do anything.
Yeah.
And now it's marginally less than at peak prices.
Yeah.
It's messed up. Well, that definitely contributes to people trying to switch jobs. It's just like, I need to make money,
Yeah.
But
This
in
isn't
doing
working
so,
out. I can't afford gas. You
Yeah.
switch jobs.
yeah, but in doing so, they end up making stupid decisions where they end up having to pay more.
Yeah, or like also just moving, like people moving from job to job, like
Yeah,
destabilizes the job market, and
yeah,
just like when it's hard to make money, it's hard to get a job, and everything's expensive. Like you feel kind of fucked.
People are a lot less, open to hiring people because, like, all right, I'm going to hire you. I'm going to spend X amount of money to train you so that
Yeah.
you can do your job. And then 2 weeks into you doing your job after being trained, you're going to quit and go to the next job.
Dude, we talked about that like in a class one time. Was about how like companies used to like hire people with like I don't want to say like less educated people, but with like less specialized education.
Yeah.
Like not like a college degree in something. Like you would get hired into a company and then they'd like teach you what you need to know to work there.
Yeah.
But companies started to realize that was really expensive. Like training employees is expensive, and it's cheaper for companies to like donate money to colleges, for the colleges to teach students to get degrees to go and work at those companies, while also pay tuition to learn that. So like college is gonna make a little bit of money. Companies are spending less money on getting good workers. Like it's interesting.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, does it have unintended consequences for everyone, right?
Yeah.
The government subsidizing college education made prices go from, $1,500 a year up to, for a private college, now up to, $60,000. That's before housing and room and board and everything. You're paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars now because the government said, oh, we'll subsidize it. And the schools took that as, oh, now we can charge more because the government's giving us money. And then now the businesses are giving us money, so we can charge a little bit more for these specialized degrees. And then we'll send them back, and then they'll give us money because they're alumni, and then the company will give us money because they want us to keep giving them good workers. But then the workers are like, well, I don't really like this job so much. The company has a bad vibe to it. Nowadays that's what they would say. And
it's not woke.
yeah. There's not enough, gay black women in there. It's not gay and lame enough, as Cartman would say. And it's just like, then they move on, and it ends up screwing everyone. Before we were so rudely interrupted, one of my coworkers just texted me. Now, this girl is like 19 years old. She just texted me, hey, do you know where the power tool is?
The power tool.
The power tool.
Very specific.
Very specific indeed.
There are a lot of power tools, and it's hard to know all the names.
It is hard to know all the names, but you could at least describe what it does.
Or what she's trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I believe she's referring to the drill, and no, I don't know where that is. That being said, how does one not know what a drill is? That's a really good question.
I don't know.
Maybe that has to do with people not knowing how to do blue-collar jobs because they're pushed into collegiate professions.
Yeah, or just like getting sucked into doing nothing.
Yeah.
The internet.
Mm-hmm.
Video games.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know.
Yeah, my dad pulled me aside and was like, hey, you want to learn how to change a sink before your mom gets home?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, I guess. And now I know how to do a sink. It's right over there. It works.
Yep, I've definitely met some individuals who I could be like, yeah, you've never put anything together in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people that you just look at them and you're like, you've never been hit. Your parents need to try corporal punishment.
Corporeal punishment?
Yep.
Like
They pull your soul out of your body and slap it around a little bit and then put it back in.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's easy for me to make fun of people that don't know how to use tools, but I also really like to use tools. So.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, their parents pay someone. They call someone. They say, hey, this needs to be done. Can you come do it? Hey, can you come, replace this section of drywall?
The only time that I'm really gonna have opinions on people who don't know how to use tools is if they're afraid of them. Like when, like and like when you are
Yeah.
so afraid of them that you behave with them like dangerously. Like I can picture like showing people like in shop class, like showing someone how to use a saw, and so like they like barely like hold on to it, like they're all afraid of it, and so like they aren't just like getting in there and doing it, and then it ends up being like way worse of an experience for everyone.
Yeah, they're barely holding it, and they go to run it through the saw, and it kicks back at them.
It goes flying.
And then it breaks a window, and they got to cut.
Of course, they're gonna be afraid of tools. I guess.
People's parents need to like learn how to do it themselves, so that they can teach their kids, so that the kids can then do it for themselves and teach their kids.
Yeah.
And we're missing a lot of that, just in general. My parents, the only stuff we would ever call someone to do is stuff that needed to be like certified, right?
Yeah,
so plumbing, electrical,
not a permit,
yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, if someone needs to sign off that it was done properly, then my parents would call. But other than that, we put in patios in every one of our houses. We put retaining walls in.
Yep.
We redid the entire backyard on at least 3 houses. And it's just like, because my parents didn't like how it was, and they knew how to do it, so they're like, okay, we're going to change it. We redid all the backsplash in at least 2 of our houses.
That are fun too.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it teaches you how to do something. Then you get to see the before and the during and the after, and then you get to be happy with the after. And maybe you screw up. We have one spot on the backsplash where it's alternating tiles, and it came in like a little strip. I put the strip up, and then the one below it, we weren't paying attention, and we didn't put it on right. So there's 2 lines that are exactly the same, but it's like
it's a little bit of character.
You
did that.
Yeah, it's like outside of that one tiny mistake, the entire rest of the thing looks good. So, and then you can do it again if you want.
Well, and mistakes are memories too.
Mistakes are memories, yeah. If we were back in the olden days where people would buy a house and then leave it to their kids, and their kids would live in the house and leave it to their kids.
It's fucked up the backsplash.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what's that blood spot? Don't worry about that. It's fine. It's good.
It's character.
Yeah. So we tried to get rid of it. It just came back. That was weird. But nowadays, people just they pay someone. It's, I need my oven door fixed. I'm going to call the handyman to come fix the oven door. But now the handyman has calls from everybody and their mother because they don't know how to do things. So it's, I got to fix the oven door. Oh, well, now I need to run off to Home Depot. And now I'm going to, be 3 days because I have other things lined up. And then they'll get back, and then you charge them out the ass to replace the oven door because they couldn't get the screwdriver and tighten the screw.
Correct, yeah. And he's making bank as a handyman.
And he's making bank.
But he is not, and also he's not career switching, which
But,
means that he's stuck.
Yeah, but he can't do anything else.
But if you love working with your hands.
Yeah.
And
But, it's a lateral move. It might not be what you thought, but you're doing it. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and tune in for the next episode.